Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Worst of Lists, bringing you the finest of Top 10 Worst Lists in the entirety of human existence. And what a pleasure it is to be here with you yet again. I'll be your host for today's endeavor. My name is Mick Stupp. And what a list. Oh my goodness. What a list. I think you're going to be, wet at the tip. I think throughout much of this list presentation today. I honestly believe that. I'm not even messing around. But we've got, before we get into that, I've got a little bit of a checklist, some disclaimers and stuff that I'm obligated to try to enumerate amongst them. Number one, I have taken leave of my senses. I'm barmy. I forget what the balmy, nutso. Not necessarily nutso in terms of like intrinsically one six-pack short of a 24 can case. Not that type of like scatterbrained or delusional or seeing things. I'm just uncommon. I'm divergent from the sort of mainstream viewpoints of the world. I think considered to be something of a oddball, perhaps a maverick in terms of my, intellectual appetites that sets me apart from what most people are sort of living through, where they know more about, television theme songs of the 70s than they do about the co-opting of, or the purging of leftward-leaning progressives in mainstream media in the United States. And that makes for a difficult journey. I can't sit around and watch a football game with the guys because nobody can tolerate the amount of bitter recriminations that I hurl towards corporate America within even the first half hour of such presentations. And I'll be like, I think it's really regrettable that the largest cultural celebration that we have in our society is the Super Bowl because, number one, they have their artists, the performing artists and the halftime shows have to pay to play for it, which is, for a corporation making as much money as the NFL, it seems really regrettable standard to set. And then, it's sort of just as popular for the multi-million-dollar commercials as it is for the game. And the game usually kind of is meh at best if you're lucky. So that's a real big disappointment to know that our society is driven to celebrate something that is so materialistic and features so many like lies and attempts to manipulate people as like a high level achievement. The better you are at manipulating people, the more rewards you earn somehow. And then you get a lot of cheaters and stuff. You get, what was the one that was the game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks, where there were the Super Bowl, where it seemed like there were, 3 or 4 key choices by referees that absolutely threw the game over to Pittsburgh. And I used to be a big football fan, and I'm watching this game. I'm like going like, this thing is fixed worse than professional wrestling. And it really turned me on to it, and just all the commercials and all the advertisements and the little logos that they got right by the neckline of their uniform so that you're always seeing NFL and stuff like that. What the hell is this supposed to be relaxing? And instead you're going back to work. It's people in the United States work more than hours than anybody else, in large part because we don't have any time off or maternity leave or any of that stuff, but it still exists. We're spend more hours working than any other major industrialized nation. And, when we do have time for ourselves, I think it winds up not being the type of fulfilling defragging that we deserve and need, because we're no longer working for the man, as it were, but instead we're working for Madison Avenue, as they infuse us with not just commercials and commercial breaks and stuff like that, but a relentless, surreptitious product placement and logos that are just festooned on every inch of things, and all these babbling moron talking heads that have all this airtime to be able to do something decent and redeemable and socially responsible, but instead choose to be, banal and white bread garbage and it's not insightful at all, just dumbing people down. It's just embarrassing and pathetic. It's people deserve to be able, if they like football, they deserve to be able to watch a good football game with great athletes. But where you have to, bombard people with so much commercialism, it ruins it. And it's not relaxation anymore. It's not, getting away from it all, having a little time off to enjoy yourself. It's working. It's just working for different people. What am I talking about? How did I get here? So I can't be relied upon or trusted. I don't even know how I got here. And I know how I got here. I just don't know how I got to talking about the NFL. What a cheap bastard. And they had other, like Tom Brady and stuff with the Deflategate and the Spygate and stuff. And these guys got off scot-free. And they wound up winning games because they cheated. And they were never even slapped on the wrist. It's like a joke. And it's not just football. They also got, the Houston Astros won a World Series by cheating and stealing the signs off the opposing team. And they didn't get nothing. They didn't have to forfeit their trophy or put an asterisk even. I don't think they had the asterisk. But they didn't have to forfeit their trophy. They're still listed as the World Series champions of that year, even though they cheated their way. What the hell kind of sporting event is that? Where you have Deflategate and Spygate and look at all the free agents that, all those years that the Patriots were winning every other year or multiple years in a row. And they're supposedly, and because they've got, their roster is so loaded that they're beating the hell out of everybody, but they're still picking up all the best free agents and stuff, and like specifically people who they need. Who is that cover? Darrell Revis. They get this blanketed, shutdown cover corner Darrell Revis right when they needed him. And that was a Danny Amendola, or it was a slot receiver that they picked up from the Miami Dolphins, who was this great flanker, slot receiver, goes over the middle, and the Patriots had been winning like crazy, and yet they get to sign that guy for nothing. And oh man, there's so many others. I'm sorry, I can't come up with. They get Randy Moss, and they get I don't remember me, but there's one after another. If you look into those years, do a little bit of legwork yourself, you freaking jackass, instead of relying on me to like come up with all this stuff off the top of my head. I just don't even know. But I do know that there were dozens of them that really they had was it Richard Seymour or something that they picked up? They picked up a defensive lineman when they really needed him, and they had to be maxed out. How the hell are they signing all these premium players? And I also think that they also cheat in terms of what's going on in the the winter meetings from the owners, and they set up the draft way in advance. They use their own scouts from the NFL, and this is just my own theory here, but they set up the scouts from the NFL that advise all of the teams on who to take, and it's not always the best player, because sometimes they want some of the worst market teams, the lower viewership market teams, to step aside and take some crappy player so that the good player will fall to the high ratings teams, because, all the owners get an equal cut of the biggest pie of all of the NFL, which is the TV contract. It's all split equally amongst all the teams. They each get an equal share. The only thing that's different is they get the parking, whatever their piece of the action of the parking, the luxury boxes, and the merch from each of the stadiums, which is, pretty negligible when you contextually compare it to, what's going on with the TV contract and stuff like that. So all of the owners have a vested interest in making sure that the ratings stay high. They couldn't care less if the teams won or lost or whatever. And the value of these teams is skyrocketing. It's like, and now it's in the billions. It was in the 100 millions not even too long ago. I mean, and it's the plan is working. So what I believe that they're doing is like, hey, the Patriots, which is a perennial high ratings television football team, because what the hell else are you going to do when there's 8 feet of snow in Boston in the middle of winter, but watch TV? And, they're always at the last pick of the first round, but they always get the exact player that they need, sort of under the radar type of player who comes in and winds up kicking ass for them every single draft, all throughout those great years and everything like that. It is, I think, part of the collusion, where they will actually get together and they'll say, well, they'll tell the Cleveland Browns, who apparently can't get anybody to watch their team, and we want you to pick another dud. You'll be drafting, number 3 for the umpteenth time in the first round, and you pick a dud that's never going to make it, and it makes your team look like they just kind of just don't know how to draft. It's an ineptitude, but what it really is, I believe, is collusion, where if all those garbage teams will avoid taking the players that they've earmarked in the winter meetings between the owners for the teams that get the best ratings, so that they have what they need in order to be able to continue to be a powerhouse and keep the ratings high, which means that all the owners are going to get more money at the end of the season. And that's how it works, I believe. And what our number 2, I've gone on enough of a tangent. I don't even know how to reel myself back into whatever it was that started this whole tangent. But number 2, I am not a partisan. I'm not down with the divide and conquer thing anymore. It's freaking Machiavelli 101, and that guy was like in the 1400s or something like that, coming up with the stuff that they will divide and conquer us in order for them to be able to, continue to sponge off of the working classes and use us like some sort of parasite and suck all of their wealth and luxury items out of our, like squeezing, a turnip or whatever that is, the blood out of a stone. I don't know what the term is, but I think the concept is pretty obvious that while we're busy fighting amongst ourselves, they're making out like bandits. And the fact is that, when you start to sort of project people out and objectify entire groups of people, it's prejudice. And a lot of the people might be completely heinous. And you might be right on the money. The bulk of them might be completely heinous, but I'll bet you anything that once you start down that road, it enables you to be able to think like that, where you're judging people as a group, casting aspersions with a broad brushstroke instead of saying, like, who are these people? Not what are these people? Even if you're right, a lot of the time, it's a bad habit. And it's leading to the destruction of the human race. And we got to find a way around it. We got to be able to find a way to forgive, forget, and move on. And it's not going to be easy because a lot of the things that we've been indoctrinated into, victimized by from the ruling elite, the foot soldiers, the lapdogs of the ruling elite, who've been acting, sort of putting these plans together from the sub-basement levels of the NSA, all these, crackers and sellouts and brown nosers who come up with these plans to dement us and to drive us nuts with hatred and envy and all kinds of just tribal things that make it impossible for us to be able to collaborate on coming up with not just a way to defend ourselves against what's happening, but realize what's happening to us and come up with solutions to help provide some representation in the power apparatus for the working class people who've been stepped on, mutilated, destroyed, brainwashed, and all this kind of stuff forever. When's it going to be our turn to have, to be able to have our birthright, to be able to live, without the ongoing yoke of our oppressors? And I'm not talking about socialism, I'm not talking about communism, I'm not talking about capitalism. All that stuff leads to the same goddamn thing. A bunch of super wealthy people will gather all of the resources through nefarious means at the top of the food chain in all of these things. You get the centralized committee when it comes to communism, and you get the board of directors when it comes to capitalism. It all winds up consolidating wealth, and once the people have consolidated wealth, they become demented and despicable monsters every time, and then we'll start oppressing people, mutilating people, and destroying their humanity as much as they possibly can, just for a little more power, just for the ability to be able to keep rolling with all the luxury items that they've been self-aggrandizing upon themselves and whatnot. And it's just, it's got to end. It's not going to change if we just keep going through the motions over and over again, expecting different results. What is it? They say it's the epitome of insanity. If you keep thinking that there's going to be different results for doing the same thing over and over again, at some point we got to be able to say, hey, look, enough is enough. Enough with the freaking hatred. Just mantra for everybody of the golden rule. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. How could anybody argue with that? And you got all these preconceived notions. And again, these types of indoctrinational things happen subsequent to our being born. We're not born with all these indoctrinated racial hatreds and hang-ups about people's sexuality and all that kind of stuff. We just get indoctrinated into it. We get peer pressured into it, and a lot of different influences of people who are just damaged, who we will look up to, or we can't escape from the sort of peer pressure of the whole situation, and we just fall into the same trap over and over again. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with us? Why can't we get out of the cycle? Do we not want to go? Do we feel comfortable just being oppressed and wasted and just praying for the giant comet in 2028 to come, and wipe us out like the bumper sticker says? Yeah. Anyway, so so much for that. This top 10 list is gonna. This one is really a good one, but it's gonna. Sometimes they seem that they're not real, they're not made up, they're untethered, they're crazy, work of a crazy person. But I do come up with these lists with a team of former NBA slam dunk champions who gather with me outside of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio. And take copious doses of bladder acid mixed with baby aspirin in order to be able to come up with these lists. We've got a sponsor. Please indulge me while I divert into a paid sponsor announcement. From the makers of Glade plugins, it's Glade. No, man, I can't even read it. It's so bad. Pina Sonata, Vinny the Pooh, mob-based Pooh Tales. Hey, I'm Vinny the Pooh. Hey. This is a good one for, from the makers of the producer of the movie, The Day the Earth stood still. It's the day the earth still stood. Or, if you prefer, the day the earth still stool? Right, stool, something. I don't know. You're working stool in that, like the whole world is going down the crapper. And these are all so bad. Yeah, if you could maybe throw down a few satirical fake commercial advertisements in the comments or something, or send me a emails, or I don't know what the hell. Disney's coming out with a new take on an old favorite called Sleeping Booty. Instead of, oh my God, is that bad? Instead of kissing Sleeping Booty to get her come out from under her spell, Prince Charming has to toss her salad. See, and it gets even worse by trying to get all like kind of lowbrow and stuff. Wow, that's a really bad one. I apologize. I'm reading through. I'm trying to come up with anything decent to try to salvage this mess here. Bird Bath and Beyond. Almost. So bad. All right, so today's top 10 list is really a corker. As it were, top 10 worst movies of all time. This is important stuff right here. Because I know that a lot of you people have been asking for, you want to see, my iconoclastic views, everything like that, where I'm just dumping on everything in sight, and whatnot. Setting my, finally, my fine-tuned tooth comb, vision on Hollywood, and with other Hollywood-oriented top 10 worst of lists has been very, very unpopular and totally ignored. But they're easy. They're easy targets. Makes it an easy list for me, and I don't have to do so much heavy lifting. And what the hey, So anyway, top 10 worst movies of all time. Number 10, Barbie. There's going to be a lot. I don't have a lot of respect for movies that are infomercials for product placement, just giant commercials, 90-minute long commercials to sell materialistic products to kids. I'm not really down with it. Mattel, I believe, who's the dehumanized sociopaths who are responsible for the Barbie movie. I think, if I remember correctly, have 42 movies in development based on products of theirs. I mean, what's the point of, anything anymore? It was just obviously just phoning it in, man. Just a bunch of, again, psychotic, empty-headed husks who are just going through the motions who have absolutely no humanity left whatsoever. 42 movies based on products. So 42 infomercials disguised as movies, just from Mattel. There was another one that I saw, there's Legos and stuff. They probably got a bunch of come through of stuff, and they've got, Transformers. It's, one of the originators of this whole, sneaky way of marketing to kids and materialism and all that kind of rancid, just absolutely rancid. Number 9, Toy Story. Same type of thing, and this is like the progenitor of all this type of stuff. And even though there's a few of the major characters in the movie are not necessarily toy lines that they're looking to sell to kids from prior to the movie, like the Slinky Dog and the Toy Soldiers and Mr. Potato Heads and stuff, which are obviously all product placement. But they were creating characters with the idea to create merch for them, just to market. I mean, that's the whole concept of the whole freaking movie. It's Toy Story. They're making toys. They're selling toys. It's not It's not people story. It's not um, brain story, or it's not self-sacrifice story, or helping out your fellow man, feed the world story. It's not end the use of private ownership of guns to be able to support the budgetary restrictions of the U.S. military in their effort to be able to obtain the highest destructive power guns possible without with us spending all of the money they need for research and development for the ongoing keeping the factories open 25/8 through the ownership of 400 million guns story. It's Toy Story. They're selling toys to your kids, right? And it's a damn shame that we just sort of let this go on. It's like, this is how we are. This is who we are. We're just victims of marketing at Madison Avenue. It's our Lord and Savior. With such a large portion of our country being devout to the Catholic Church, especially knowing, that their main means of recruiting Catholic priests are through child abuse and allowing Catholic priests to continue to go to other parishes to spread their damage. Probably, I'm guessing here, but probably is the main way that they get more people to be Catholic priests. I mean, who else would want to do that? With all the outrage about Epstein and not releasing the files and everything like that, I mean, where's the outrage about the freaking Catholic Church? Where's the outrage about the abuse of children by movies like Barbie and Toy Story? I mean, there's other types of abuse that are ruining, kids' lives and their mentalities and their futures, other than the horrific advent of physical abuse. We're abusing people with 15-year-old kids. People, the cigarette companies know that if they need, most people, if they become addicted lifelong to tobacco products, do so by their 15th birthday. That's where they market the kids. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, they've got cigarette product placement in freaking cartoons like King of the Hill. And they've got, obviously, the obvious one was, like the candy-flavored vape cartridges. All right, number 8 of the top 10 worst movies of all time. It's a tie. Oh, my God. And it's a Tom Hanks tie. Oh my, woo! Tom Hanks. And the tie is between You Got Mail and Castaway. Now, Castaway, again, this is another sort of product placement movie. It was like an infomercial for FedEx, right? Where it's like nonstop. He's on the island, everything like that. He's on a deserted island. Who's the only thing that's with him? It's 2 things. Wilson and FedEx packages. And every scene is conspicuous product placement, logo placement for FedEx for 2 freaking hours. And they're showing this guy he won't even open the packages. He's stranded, marooned. The people FedEx have such integrity that he doesn't even open the packages until he's almost dead. And he finally opens them, and thank God he does, because it saves his ass. Who wants to watch Tom Hanks shrivel up and die like a raisin, like a burnt raisin? And then You've Got Mail is just like it's an abomination. It should be seen as a hate crime, because not only do you have, for what at the time was the biggest internet provider of AOL, so it's a giant infomercial for them, where they actually have the guys you listen to them logging on with the funny little You Got Mail guy actually in the movie a whole bunch of times. But on top of that, you also have where they create a hero worship for box stores, and they denigrate the whole idea of the mom and pop small businesses, and just as part of the plot line. And then you got tokenism with Dave Chappelle, whose character is just just a mean-spirited depiction of a black man in that movie. Just absolutely, it's beyond comic relief. It's degrading and horrible to watch. And you know, I mean, it's one thing after another of just like this despicable content, and brainwashing and social engineering at a level that's, I mean, otherworldly. Why would people subject anybody to anything like this ever? And the people who are paying for this are gotta be just the worst frickin' monsters in the history of frickin' monsters. I'm sorry, but it's not Sleepless in Seattle, where it's just this organic love story where they're trying to make whoopee with each other. They keep sort of missing out on whatever. Cute, it's so cute. Take off on a movie that was done a million years ago, but You've Got Mail. No, that's a cynical, venal, and toxic presentation that just is pathetic. I mean, it's abysmal. And should never have been made. Number 7 of the top 10 worst movies of all time, Avatar. Avatar, come on, man. It's like the animation is the worst, and just the whole story is so trite and phoned in and simple-minded. It's just like like you've got like these native characters from Navi, whatever, and they've got they're all dedicated to environmental causes and stuff, and all nice and everything, and they're blue, and then they've got the militant, military types who like want to kill them off and exploit the land. I mean, how many millions of freaking times have movies done this? It's just so cheap looking on top of it. And it's like this guy who's just like this jerk off Cameron, James Cameron, who puts these things together. It's just so horrible that he would think that he would dress this up as if it's a big achievement. It's not a big achievement. It's horrible. It's worse than the other Zemeckis guy, his Polar Express and his Scrooge movie, whatever, Christmas Carol, where they're just horrifying. Where you look at these creatures that he's created for the Zemeckis movies, and you're just like, it's so revolting and scary, and it's clearly an effort to try to get us to spend a ton of money at the box office that will help pay for the development of CGI to weaponize it so that they can use it against us for creating deep fakes and all that kind of garbage. And now it's here. I mean, without our participation in the process, without us, they never would have had, who knows how many billions that we've spent on CGI-related movies where they create economic incentivizing us to go to these CGI movies, and we pay out the nose for these things, and they take all this money and they just use it to develop weapons that they're using against us. Now you go, social media, you don't know what the hell is real or not. And in large part because of these sickening pathological sellouts like James Cameron and Robert Zemeckis, who are, jumping into and Pixar's and all those things. They got away from human animation and turned into computer animation exclusively, specifically because it was part of the military-industrial complex agenda. And that's all from, the economic macro planning, structural economic planning that derives from the idea of National Socialism. These were all the things that got pioneered with Nazi Germany. And where they had, they built the Autobahn. Why did they build the Autobahn? Because they wanted more people to own automobiles. And prior to the Autobahn, it was very difficult for people to be able to get around and use automobiles. When they built the Autobahn, everybody was like, wow, we got an Autobahn now. You can drive 1,000,000 miles an hour. Let's buy a bunch of automobiles. And it worked like a charm. Oh, why is it so important for people to have a healthy and productive and profitable automobile industry in their country? Because you absolutely have to have it in order to be able to build a world-class military. Because without it, you can't source all the things that you need for tanks and advanced performance engines for the Air Force, and it all starts with a big league healthy automobile industry. You need the tires, you need to be able to source that, you need the oil that you wouldn't be able to source. Think about if we didn't have an automobile industry, how expensive it would be for a gallon of gas. It's the economies of scale that enable for the military to be able to build tanks that are reasonable costs without the factories and everything like that sitting around, and the know-how and the R&D that goes into building high-performance engines from sources like NASCAR, which we pay for, and the mainstream private ownership of automobiles in our country. And it's the same thing with guns. They need us to be able to have private ownership of guns, and that's why Congress won't do anything about it, even with mass shooting after mass shooting, is because they know that without us buying what we now have 400 million privately owned guns in this country, without us doing that, the military would have to pay $1 billion for a gun. And they'd have to mothball all these factories and all the parts and ammo production and everything like that in between their purchase. How often are they going to be purchasing guns? Every 5 years or whatever? It's not like they're purchasing 1 million guns every day. And so what are they going to do with all these factories in between? They'd have to, if it weren't for private ownership of guns, they would have to mothball the factories, and they'd have to send all the technicians and all the manufacturing people, the technicians, all that kind of stuff, away to go get a job to support themselves somewhere. You're not going to have them sitting around and get paid to do nothing. I mean, they're not bass players. Number 6, Polar Express. Wow, see, I stepped on my material. Polar Express, it's just frightening. What I don't know what people thinking. Did they do like a market? I bet you anything, if you could have access to the market surveys that they did for the test screenings of Polar Express, it would be like one after another. People going, this is terrifying. How could you do this to children? This is the scariest thing I've ever seen. Tom Hanks has never been more horrifying. Except perhaps in You've Got Mail. Polar Express and its sister in crime, I think it's called Christmas Carol, directed by Robert Zemeckis. I don't know what happened to Robert Zemeckis. It seemed like he was like an innovative filmmaker there for a while. He was doing Forrest Gump and the Roger Rabbit and one other one that was good that I can't remember off the top of my head. Back to the Future. But Back to the Future is pretty trite too. Is Back to the Future on this list? It really should be. I'm putting Back to the Future on as a tie with Polar Express because Back to the Future is just so pathetic. It's such a piece of garbage, and you know that it is. I mean, you won't admit it to yourself. People are like, oh, well, it's a fun little romp in but I mean, take a look at how completely white bread it is. It's like just complete milquetoast. But even worse than that, perhaps, is that here's guys who are pioneering time travel. And what do? They go back to the 50s in order to be able to, have sex with their own mom or something. Why aren't they going to, stop Hitler? Why aren't they going to, because we know that Hollywood is about as anti-Semitic as it gets, especially like when it comes to, the relentless support of Mel Gibson and the relentless anti-Semitism of the South Park people and the Team Americas and the Garrett Cartmans and stuff like that. Certainly there's a huge segment of anti-Semitism and everything like that, and we get it. We know that's part of, what people want, to give them what they want. But, why aren't they going to stop the assassination of Kennedy, the assassination of Lincoln, the triangle factory shirtwaist fire, the Trail of Tears? Why aren't they going to stop the formation of sweatshops or the signing of NAFTA, or, real life problems that we've got that have impacted the working classes? They just got to stop some guy or help him get laid by his own mom or whatever. It's just so myopic and so unimaginative and really just completely uninspiring. And that's a big part of what makes so many American movies so horrible. And the whole industry as a whole is nothing more than an indoctrination device that's designed specifically to demotivate us. Designed specifically, they have. How many times have you seen, like, it's usually in a Jim Carrey movie or something of that nature, where the main character is too ambitious, working too hard. Your family misses you. Why are you working so hard? That was a great one. The Steve Martin version of I think it's Cheaper by the Dozen. And he gets his dream job of being a coach for like a major college AAA team or whatever, and this is what he's been working for his entire life, and he's got, like, I don't know, a dozen kids or whatever, and he's been supporting them and his wife and everything like that. But as the movie goes on, you find that these kids, like, withdraw all support that they possibly can, act like total spoiled brats, and ruin the guy's life. And they didn't have it all that bad. They get 12 kids. There's more money there. They never go out and get a nanny to help out with the family or anything. The wife leaves. Supposed to go for a couple of days for a business meeting out of town, and she winds up staying for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then blames the husband for not being able to keep it all together and say, "Wow, you said you could take care of this," and never even mentioned it in the script that the wife says, "Oh, you said that you'd be gone for a couple of days, and you wound up staying for weeks trying to pursue this pipe dream of your own," which is not bad, but it's certainly nothing to be blaming the father over or taking out on him, because she was the one that said it would only take a couple of days. And but it just, I would have left those kids in a minute. They're just so bratty and coming up with all these schemes to submarine their own dad, trying to live out his ultimate passion. Such a horrible bunch of brats. I would have, like, put them all up for adoption. And the wife, kicked the wife to the curb. You said you'd be gone for a couple of days. We could have gotten a nanny. We could have gotten a live-in housekeeper or something like that. Could have helped out with all these situations. So the wife is off going. She's going to, maybe become an author, maybe get a bunch more money. This guy has upgraded his job, so he's probably getting a bunch more money. So everybody's getting, where they'll have enough money to be able to send 12 kids to freaking college. And they're all complaining about it. And they're all ruining his life on top of ruining his dreams. But that's how Hollywood works. They're trying to demotivate all of us who are watching this, saying, like, oh, we really need to spend more time with the family. And the family that needs to be, like, totally intolerant towards anybody who shows any ambition whatsoever. And that's shown as the redemptive arc in the movie. And it happens in like a Jim Carrey movies, like, every time. Liar, liar, and et cetera, et cetera. Oh, man, so disheartening. Number 5, another tie. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I think I swallow a lot of air when I talk like this, as I'm not, fortunately, when I'm just sort of hanging out with, talking to the four walls and my invisible imaginary friends. I usually don't get like this. So number 5 is a tie between. It's not really a tie. It's sort of like a mashup. It's Lord of the Rings, etc. All those Lord of the Rings / anything by Peter Jackson. Now here's a guy, and I will put the fact that I haven't seen everything by this guy, and I could be off base, but everything that I have seen by this guy is a curious absence of any, actors with major roles of color. You have the King Kongs, and I don't think there's anybody of color in that whole movie, other than, like, the natives and stuff that he shows to be, backwards savages, really, and scary savages. Like that guy. Who's that guy? Oh, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. And then you don't have a whole lot of people of color in the Fellowship of the Rings, do you? I don't remember there being a an elfin person of African descent, or I mean, it's all white people, and the dark complected, the dark skin toned creatures, okay, that appear in those movies, the orcs, right? They're monstrous, bloodthirsty, dehumanized villains without any independent thought or brain intellectual capacity whatsoever. He's sending a message. I think Peter Jackson, man, what a piece of work. If I were in control of Hollywood, that guy couldn't get, he wouldn't get a job shining my shoes. The only the movie that I remember that he's ever worked on that has any person of color in it in a major character role is the Beatles thing that he did, where Billy Preston comes trotting in and, for a little cameo here and there. And you barely see him. You never hear him like sort of talk or be interviewed or elaborate on any of his feelings, and just sort of sitting there smiling and playing a little piano licks and stuff like that. And that's super minimal. And other than that, I don't think I remember seeing anybody in a Peter Jackson movie that has any skin tone with a darker complexion than Tilda Swinton after spending a month and a half without ever going outside. Number 4 of the top 10 worst movies of all time, anything by Steven Spielberg. Okay, I mean, like, Spielberg has gotten like a lot of accolades and stuff like that, but just for sucking up to the powers that be and selling out. I mean, those really are his main achievements, right? Because if you got enough money and you got enough patience and you got enough training, you can make any movie that Steven Spielberg ever made, as long as you're willing to sell out in a titanic way to create a career that's characterized primarily by, you can compare it to like a mayonnaise sandwich on white bread. And it's, one piece of white bread is Jaws, where there's not a single person of color in that entire movie. The only thing with a darker skin tone than peach colored flesh, is the shark. A shark with the gray colored skin. That's a bit of a stretch, but hey, gray is, as based off of the color black, right? Just a more realistic and less jokey types of things, where the suburbanite ethos that's omnipresent in all of his movies, pretty much. And you've got the freaking E.T., and you get Close Encounters of the Third Kind and War Horse, and I don't remember there being a single person of color in Saving Private Ryan. Did I miss something? Or Catch Me If You Can. Was there a single person of color in that movie? And it goes on and on. And the few movies that he does where people come, those are super isolated, where the people of color are the theme somehow, like The Color Purple, where it shows. I mean, I forget the character names and everything like that. It's been so long. But I wasn't one of the guys, if I remember correctly, just like this drunk, wife-beating abuser, serial abuser. I mean, what's up with that? Is that the only person of color that Steven Spielberg is ready to depict on screen? And then you got Amistad. Other than the black lawyer that's depicted, I'm sorry, I forget his name. It wasn't Booker T. Washington. It was Frederick Douglass, perhaps. I'm sorry, I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen it. But that's the only articulate black person that's in the entire movie. All the rest of them are shown as slaves. And they're, it's not like super horrifying, but it is, in a way, super horrifying. And when you take it in just sort of the panoply of Steven Spielberg milquetoast achievements, it shows itself to be a pattern. I'm sorry. But you make that many movies with that much money to spend and stuff like that, and you can't find a way to depict some important characters that are diverse, then, you know, you know what I'm saying? And number 3 of the top 10 worst movies of all time, anything by Martin Scorsese. And Scorsese is the same thing. I can't remember hardly anybody in all of his movies that have any, darker skin tone. Again, Tilda Swinton. And what makes it really horrible is that this guy doesn't even try with the to put any actors of color in his movies. I mean, other than the one that he did about the oil thing that he did recently, I must be missing something. It can't be. I mean, but you go through Mean Streets and you go through like all of his best movies, Goodfellas and Taxi Driver, and I mean, help me out here. What You Call Me of Gangs of New York, and not that that's one of his best movies, but it does have the immortal line, "He almost fish hooked McGloin." I'm thinking about changing this whole listing thing from top 10 worst ofs to Fish Hook McGloin. Fish Hook McGloin! Yeah, Fish Hook McGloin! And then there's also, all kinds of stuff, man. But I can't remember anything that he did with, Casino. Is there a person of color? It's Las Vegas. Is there a single person of color in all of Las Vegas? It's one after the other. I mean, this guy is the biggest, in terms of my view of him, is the biggest white supremacist movie maker in the history. And what really, really pisses me off is that frickin' Raging Bull, because they have this movie and they're glorifying this frumpy wife-beating jerk off, the Raging Bull guy, Pancho Villa, whatever it is. What's this guy's name? Bob Villa. I can't remember what his fire's name is off the top of my head, but it's not that. It's the depiction of Sugar Ray Robinson in the movie that's just absolutely horrifying. Because the guy who they got, God bless him, is the scariest looking monstrous person you've ever seen in your whole freaking life. So you have the fight scene, and Jake LaMotta, that's his name. Jake LaMotta is shown as to be this big hero, a tragic hero, and stuff like that. Just super fantastic, everything like that. And the Sugar Ray Robinson character comes in, and if you look at the guy, it's like the living embodiment of evil, just because he's black. There's no other reason. Sugar Ray Robinson is the one who should have had a movie made about him. That guy was the greatest fighter of all time. I don't know why you're making a stupid-ass movie about a stupid-ass Jake LaMotta when you got Sugar Ray Robinson right there. That's the guy right there. And when he couldn't make a living off of boxing anymore, he turned to entertainment. And this guy always had a smile on his face and was the best fighter in history. There's just not a lot of film around about him. Best pound-for-pound fighter in all of history is, without a doubt, Sugar Ray Robinson. And you will get that from Muhammad Ali. You will get that from probably, I think, Mike Tyson. I think I heard a quote about, from him about that as well. But the guy, it's indisputable. And, I mean, he's won 100 and something freaking fights. And only lost, I don't know, once maybe or something to Jake LaMotta one time. But, and then they show this movie about the only time the guy gets on the silver screen. Oh, not the only time. I think he was in another movie. But about, I mean, that depicts him as a real human being. He's shown as a freaking satanic-looking monster. What the hell is wrong with a society where we let that slide? Martin Scorsese, in my mind, is the biggest frickin' white supremacist movie maker, racist, bigot, jerk-off in the history of Hollywood. I'm sorry, but you take a look at that frickin' depiction of the greatest boxer of all time, Sugar Ray Robinson, in that movie, and you tell me that he's not depicted as a frickin' monster. Look at his face. eyes are glowing, and he never talks. He's like this stalking, brainless monster freak because of, I don't know what happened to Martin Scorsese when he was a kid. Did he get, I don't know, what the hell? He's demented, debauched. He's not a good filmmaker. He's not a good person. He's a monster, and he never should have had the success that he did. And give us a freaking movie at least about Sugar Ray Robinson to make him look like the hero that he was, with so many uphill battles that he had to fight in addition to fighting. And he won, I'm serious, like a bazillion fights. How come? I mean, that's part of why this country has been underachieving for so long and became such a hateful place where all this hatefulness can rise up, because you've got a depiction of somebody as amazing as Sugar Ray Robinson depicted as a freaking monster by this sadistic, misanthropic bigot, Martin Scorsese. And Martin Scorsese gets every freaking job, and freaking John Singleton, dies 40 or whatever the hell. Jesus Christ. Number 2, the top 10 worst movies of all time, The Joker. I really hate The Joker. It's like watching a handbook, like a video handbook, to normalize psychotic and violent behavior. Because as you're watching this movie, you're like thinking, like, over and over again, they make the Joker look to be the good guy. The Joker's not a good guy. He's randomly killing, murdering innocent people throughout his whole life and victimizing them, and they're like, oh, like it's okay. And then they give him, on the TV with the stuff, and then all these people are thronging, becoming big giant fans of the Joker. This is all social engineering at its most reprehensible, its most venal and sadistic. These people are horrible monsters, and what they're doing to us is villainous. And this is real life. We're not talking about cartoon villains. We're not talking about the Joker being a villain anymore. We're talking about the people who are making these movies, where the plot line in real life is what the movie is all about. They're not out to make some movie that depicts how divergent people might become villainous, and that sometimes it's justifiable because of how horrible life is or how difficult life is, and things like that, where you can explain it away at the very least. No, that's not what it's all about. It's about giving the green light to demented people to go out and mess with people and mess people up. It's a training film on psychotic behavior. And number 1 of the top 10 worst movies of all time, you know it's coming. I'm sorry, you know it's coming, but it's got to be The Godfather. There's no movie in the history of everything has ever done as much damage to our identity as The Godfather. And the glorification of violence, the glorification of crime, the glorification of drug dealing and mayhem and cheating, putting a dead horse's head into some Hollywood producer's bed to get a job for Frank Sinatra, while everybody else is working their asses off trying to get jobs based on their talent and their work ethic, and who knows what else goes into all the the people trying to be actors. They work the day job, and then they go at night to do classes and stuff like that. Then they go to auditions in the morning on their way to work. I mean, it's a slog. It's a slog. And the Godfather going like, oh well, I'm gonna do you this offer you can't refuse. And he throws the horse's head into the producer's bed and gets Frank Sinatra a rebirth of his career. That sucks. It's a horrible precedent to talk about, or to put out there into the world, that this is how it really works and whatnot, and this is laudable behavior. It's shown as heroic. It's not shown. I mean, it's fine if you're going to make it more of a documentary, saying like these are the horrible things that these people will do to cheat, steal, lie, and kill, in order to be able to just have their own luxury life in this gated community and stuff like that. They're horrible, freaking monsters. And we're making them, they are making them, Francis Ford Coppola's making them to look like freaking heroic and stuff like that. Anyway, it's just bad news, man. We cheer for him. And you know that you do. He says, leave the gun, take the cannoli. You're laughing your ass off. There's a guy who's dead, a whole family. He's the breadwinner for a whole family. You don't know how many kids he's got. You don't know how destroyed that their lives are going to be, how much they're going to cry over a lost loved one. And you're laughing about the take the cannolis, leave the gun. That's why they make those movies. So that we will laugh at that line about the cannolis when the guy's sitting there with his brains blown out. They want to desensitize us. It's a recruitment film for the mob. It's a recruitment film for all the drug dealing they're about to embark upon. They're starting to embark upon as the United States starts extracting all the heroin and opiate products from the Golden Triangle during the Vietnam War, as the CIA becomes the leading drug dealer in the entire world. That's what that movie's for. They can't put a job posting in the newspaper saying CIA seeks drug dealers. They have to use what they can, which is like the movie industry, where they create these propaganda films, which are really functionally recruitment films. This is so glamorous, looking cool. Look how cool these guys are. Look at Sonny. I want to be like Sonny. People are seeing that and like being like, oh man, how cool these guys are. And when I look on Michael as he pulls the gun out of the bathroom and stuff and blows all his enemies away and stuff. And he goes to Italy and he falls in love with this lady and stuff like this. It's just like, whoa, wow, the jet setting and everything that you get to, once you become a serial murderer and you give up being an intelligent college student and, Army veteran and all kinds of, laudable, useful, societal types of stuff like that. And it's horrible. And that's what the powers that be are. Those are weapons that they're using against us so that we become mindless, obedient drones. But you know what? Soon they're going to have their obedient drones that are all automated, and they can replace us, and they don't have to worry about manipulating our brains and our social mores and everything like that. They can just go ahead and replace us. And another one of the, while I'm on the subject, of a movie that people, I think, have dramatically misinterpreted by Francis Ford Coppola is, of course, Apocalypse Now. Now, Apocalypse Now, everybody thinks is an anti-war movie. It is not an anti-war movie. If you look at it properly, they have, the guys obviously in the beginning when they're sitting around the table deciding the guy's fate, Colonel Kurtz's fate, and how, he's got these transmissions that they found that seem nutty, and they tell the assassin, Martin Sheen, that he's got to go out there and take him out because he's lost his senses. And we watch it, and it seems like they're trying to make fun of or satirize or demonize the army officials and that one creepy CIA guy at the initial luncheon where they're asking Martin Sheen to take the gig. And he goes down the river, and there's all this waste of life, and it's horrible, and everything like that. And a lot of people go nuts and whatnot, and it seems like a waste of time. And then Martin Sheen is reading the dossier the whole time, and it shows in the dossier that Kurtz didn't look like he was insane at all, but looked like he was figuring out the lies and the bulldink behind the entirety of the Vietnam War. And you're starting to feel like this is an anti-war movie. And then they show what's his name, Robert McNamara, Robert Downey Jr., Robert what's the guy's name, Robert Culp, Robert I almost said De Niro, but it's not De Niro, it's the other Robert Duvall, and they make him out to surfing and everything like that. But he also says that everybody felt safe around him, and he cared about his men. So he was nutty and eccentric, but what wasn't nutty and eccentric, esoteric about anything in the 60s and early 70s? I mean, it was just a bunch of colorful characters and stuff like that. And he says he felt comfortable that, he was going to survive the war and everything like that. So it wasn't really as much of a put down as we thought. It's Butch is really all it really is. And then they go through this movie and down the river and everything like that. And then they get to Colonel Kurtz and his little village and stuff. And he's obviously gone completely nuts. So at the end of the movie, it turns out that the army officials that hired Martin Sheen or ordered Martin Sheen to do this were right. It all justified. And all the stuff when he's going over the dossier when they're going down the river was the stuff that threw us off the scent. But at the end, the assassin assassinates Colonel Kurtz. He's got dead people hanging all over the place, naked, stuff dripping blood, and he's got this insane army of psychotics and sort of mindless, obedient drones right there, talking about that. And it's just absolutely nutty. And he's like randomly killing off people, chopping off people's heads and everything like that. This is a guy who the army was right about. And that's what the movie depicts. And at the end, the army wins because the guy goes and kills him and destroys his whole movement. It's not like he gets to Kurtz and Kurtz is like super intelligent and aware of everything. And he's fighting a war against the United States, and he's become an iconoclast and looking to turn things around by fighting against the injustices of the Vietnam War or anything like that. He's a nut job. He's a freaking nut job sitting around like the little slicks, the clicks, and he slaughters the guy and like a fatted calf, whatever. Chops him up. It's not a pretty sight. He bludgeons the guy to death with a machete. It's as pro-war as it gets. It really is. And I don't see anybody, without, people that start looking at it. I don't know what the hell's wrong with people, but they're not looking at it how it really is. The army wins in the end. The army was right. He was nuts. He needed to be taken out, and he was taken out. And all the sacrifice of all the lives that they're, all the young kids on the boat who get killed off and stuff as they're going up and down to try to take care of this mission, were sacrificing themselves for what turns out to be depicted to us as a righteous mission in the very end. It's not a waste of life. It's something that is totally justified. And so all this thing that we think that's showing us that there was nothing justifiable about the Vietnam War, the metaphor and the end of the whole thing is that the Vietnam War and all the waste of life was 100% justified. We went there, we tried to fight it. Some people went nuts. They they start murdering people left and right, and then the army takes it up. The army's the hero at the end of the movie, not Kurtz. All right, so I got a few honorable mentions. Try to burn through these. Jesus Christ, this turned out to be a long one. I wanted to get through it an awful lot quicker. I apologize for that. Honorable mention, Waiting for Superman. Here's a movie that just, again, despicable social engineering movie that, came out back in the day in the early 2000s, I think, where it's talking about how charter schools are like the savior of the human race, where charter schools are going to solve all of our educational problems, and whatnot, and how bad public schools were, and need to get rid of all the public schools and some charter schools. And just recently in Chicago, there were, I believe, 2 charter schools that had to close in the middle of the year because they ran out of money. So, that was just a big giant lie. And people who were looking at that should have seen it as a lie, should have seen it as a propaganda thing. You know what it was? It was all just a union busting effort because the charter school teachers, the only difference between the charter schools and the public schools, by and large, was that the public schools had unionized teachers, and the charter schools wouldn't allow that. So they're probably earning less, and they fell apart. Once a couple of them in Chicago couldn't even finish the year, and I don't remember ever hearing of a school that couldn't finish out the year because they ran out of money. And think about the kids that are living through that. Yeah, be all end all of schools, charter schools. Up yours, buddy. And then it came right around the same time ish as the movie Bad Teacher. And Bad Teacher is a movie that depicts what's her name? The blonde lady who does the dancing, who's actually like a pretty talented dancer. Renee Trudeau. It's one of the Charlie's Angels guys. Cameron Diaz. Diaz is part of it. The Something About Mary lady, and she's in it, and they depict unionized teachers as just absolute monsters. It's Cameron Diaz at first. She's like partying and telling students to blow me or whatever the hell she was doing, and just kind of skirting along, being totally abusive of her job and her students. And then they have this other teacher who's even worse, who's coming up with a bunch of lies and abusive behavior left and right. And then they have another teacher who's kind of like this prude, and it's just showing the unionized teachers as being just regrettable and horrible. Again, this is sort of an anti-union hit piece where they're trying to make a movie that's looking to sell a bill of goods that union teachers are bad and they can't be trusted, and they're doing drugs in front of your kids and phoning it in and all kinds of bad stuff. It's so horrible. Why would anybody do a movie like that? You can't find anything else to be funny about? No, it's because they actually have an agenda to bust unions and to make teachers, and if you put it in conjunction with Waiting for Superman, you get the full knowledge of what their agenda really is, why they made these movies in the first place. It wasn't for entertainment. It wasn't for information. It was to sell an agenda to us and convince us that unions are bad and need to be disposed of at the earliest available convenience. And then they come up with a movie called The Replacements, and I can't remember where that fits into the linear timeline in respect to Waiting for Superman and Bad Teacher. But The Replacements is a movie about a scab professional NFL, I guess-ish, football team that they have a strike. And, of course, they portray all of the union regular players as, spoiled brats, billionaires, turning up their nose at everybody. And, in fact, throughout the movie, they depict them as criminals. And then they bring in this scrappy bunch of replacements, these scabs, and they come in and with their grit and can-do attitude, even though they've got less, overall talent, they wind up, being plucky and underdogs and Cinderella stories, all that kind of garbage. And it's just nothing more than a hit piece. It's all a union-busting effort, and you never see stuff like that. I mean, the real enemies of of humanity aren't the football players. They have a career span of 3 years. A lot of them die by 40 years old and such because of CTE and brain damage, and they go in and they have massive amounts of sacrifice and pain physically to get through, not just for rehab situations and all that kind of stuff, but to just be strong enough to participate in the sport. And then you work like a dog all throughout your developmental years and make all these sacrifices just to be on the sports team. It's not a bunch of grown-ups playing kids games and getting paid millions for it. They only get to work for a few years. The people who are really the waste of a time and exploitative and could be kicked to the curb and gotten rid of without anybody noticing a difference is the freaking owners. They're sitting up in the luxury boxes that we pay for, the sky boxes, eating who knows what kind of gigantic lobster tails and everything like that. And just because they don't want to be near us and whatnot, we have to pay billions to build the luxury sky boxes for them so they can sit in their opulence that they sponge off of us and our work and our labor and our sweat equity and elbow grease. And I mean, if you got rid of the owners of the sports franchises, you never know the difference in terms of what happens on the field. Get together a little, bunch of super fans and stuff like that to just do just as good. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever 32 teams or whatever there are in the league, it's only one of them every year is going to be a champion. All the rest of them are going to go home with a, sort of modicum very disheartening end to their season. A modicum of, they did okay. They made it to the playoffs this year and stuff like that. Or they lost and they looked like crap doing it. So, and then finally, Blackfish. I mean, what the hell? Blackfish is good. I see the world as, we can go through our droll little lives where, nothing remarkable ever happens. And we just, at some point, we become droll ourselves, right? We start to phone it in. We start to downgrade our expectations out of life. Our aspirational impulses evaporate away. And we become gray matter, just kind of on autopilot and accepting that our lives are just going to be redundant, and what happens in certain times in our lives, mostly when we're young, when there can be like a certain almost like magical experience, where you see something, you encounter something, something happens to you, an event, a moment even, where something magical happens that sticks with you for the rest of your, inspires you for your entire life. And a lot of those magical experiences for kids have to do with, having a game of catch or whatever, but a lot of them have to do with like animals, right? Where you, back in the day, you'd go to a circus and you'd see these amazing animals and these people interacting with them and just be completely blown away. And you'd just be enchanted by being close up, seeing an animal in action doing amazing things. And we, what I refer to as like a sort of like a magical experience that you will carry with you in your heart for your entire life. And I think that, when it comes to, trained sea lions and dolphins and killer whales and stuff like that, I think a lot of kids would have this transformative magical experience when they see these magnificent creatures up close and in action. And I think that a lot of these experiences wound up adding up to a lot of kids becoming animal and environmental activists. Because when you have that experience when you're still young and optimistic and the whole world is out there, and you have this encounter that inspires you in such a pure way, I think that leads to a lot of people, becoming lifelong. It's same type of way that the cigarette and tobacco companies know that they need to get their hooks into kids before their 15th birthday, because they statistically know that you need to get them by then in order to turn them into lifelong addicts, statistically. I think the reverse is true for good things. I honestly believe this, that if you can catch kids when they're still in the age of wonder and they see something like a killer whale up close and the magnificence of that beast, and they can have that real experience, that real encounter like that, I think that a lot of kids probably went into like biology and, animal rights and human obligation pursuits, environmental pursuits, and all kinds of wonderful things. And I really honestly believe that the reason why they made Blackfish, because it's obviously a hit piece. This is Blackfish I was looking at that for me. It was so obvious that the thing was intentionally constructed to try and destroy that industry. As this guy, they've got one fish that killed somebody, but a number of incidents of that happening with trained aquatic animals is so incredibly low for the amount of transactional events that they've had. It's insane. It was, think about why not get rid of cars destroying people's lives and stuff like that. It's an abusive owner who is responsible for the way the movie is presented to us, and it tries to make it seem like this is an industry-wide thing that they need to do away with this as part of, they had some kind of agenda. And I think that agenda was to try to kill off those magical experiences, those times where you're living in opportunity to have this wondrous, inspirational event in your life, and I think that they wanted to take those away. I think that they probably have statistics that they haven't released to us that show that this movie and the destruction of circuses and water shows and stuff like that, I'll bet you anything that there's a major league reduction in the amount of people who grow up to go into environmental and animal biology careers. When I see that movie, it seems so hateful to me and so spiteful and so one-sided. And they only interview certain people and all kinds of things. It just seemed to me, personally, to be a hit piece and trying to destroy, what otherwise, very few in terms of the numbers of incidents along those lines that that they totally took away those industries completely after hundreds of years of circuses and stuff as being like a fantasy for kids, and the magic experience of going to one of those things. And they took it all away. It's just, I don't know. I'm not saying right or wrong, but I'm saying we need to question it. We need to have people who really know what they're talking about take a objective look at what the end result of having destroying all these things does to us at large. Because let's be honest, people make sacrifices for good things all the time. If you're not making sacrifices, you're not really getting anything in depth out of life at all. It's like people struggle in order to be able to to make good things happen in this world. And so, maybe certain animals struggling to make good things happen in this world so that more animals can wind up surviving, that more animals can be treated with respect and honor and not being abused. How else do people get the connections and stuff like that? Because they're certainly not showing the horse racing industry in any of those movies, and which kids normally can't go to because there's betting involved. But I saw a statistic in 2025 that 1,800 horses died in the horse racing industry because of injuries they had to be put down. 1,800 in 1 year? It's insane. And then they do this movie. It was one incident in Blackfish, that one or two incidents or whatever it was. But it's like, you're talking about one or two incidents in all of orca training history versus 1,800 dying horses every year. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, this is all programmed. Like, we're being programmed individually. Human beings are being put into this machine that these abysmal, abominable, horrific overlords of ours are putting us through to make our lives worse and worse and worse for kicks. I guess, because they've already got everything on earth in terms of material wealth. So I don't know what else they were doing it for, other than for kicks. And that's what gets them off. The only thing that gets them off is seeing good people suffer. That's how bad people roll, baby. And it's not about the money. It's about the kicks. They already got all the money. What do they keep doing it for to us? It's because they love seeing us twist the wind. It's probably what all these wars are about and everything like that. They just love seeing babies melting. And because as long as we keep sending them the videos, the nude videos of all the kids from the backscatter machines at all the airports around the country, why do you think they have all that stuff they really need? They're really stopping a lot of, by seeing us naked, they're stopping a lot of terrorist events and stuff. I doubt it. You want to make less terrorism in the world, treat people with respect, make a better world. The terrorism of the world, if you have, after 9/11, the first impulse of everybody was to go out and attack, take all the poppy fields out of the Afghanis, to go to war against Iraq for no apparent reason at all. What happened to turn the other cheek? It could have been a time of self-reflection going like, why would anybody hate us enough to murder 3,000 people randomly, innocent people that had nothing to do with whatever you're pissed off about? What are we doing wrong? Why would so much hatred and vitriol be focused on us? I mean, at some point, the United States was thought of as the great liberator that stopped the Nazi threat, although they didn't really do a good job of that, did they? But that's how we were thought of. And then at some point, within 4 decades or whatever, all the nastiness that we'd done in the world had somehow inspired people to murder 3,000 people sitting in the World Trade Center for, who did nothing to anybody, really, for the most part. I mean, there's probably a few bad eggs in there. The World Trade Center. Certainly in the Pentagon. Which, I mean, there's no freaking way that an airplane could fly 5 feet off the ground and land on the Pentagon, with the hole that's smaller than the fuselage of the plane. And think about it simply like this. I'm not going to get into a whole big 9/11 thing because it's an hour and a half. Somewhere. But, I mean, think about it. This is a guy who trained on a crop duster with a bunch of screaming people. Obviously, by this point, when you're flying across the ground, heading right for the Pentagon, that know that they're dead anyway, so they're going to be attacking through the cockpit. Why not just hit the Pentagon from the top? It's the world's freaking largest office building. Why do you got to hit it from the side? Why? It's like this gigantic, huge building where anybody, any schmuck who's got even one flying lesson could hit the Pentagon from the top of the jumbo jet with screaming passengers. But no, he sits it from the side, skimming along the, the ground, 3 feet over the ground, going 600 miles an hour or whatever the hell. And there's telephone poles and wires and Winnebagos and a elevated highway right there and stuff. It's just no freaking way. Anyway, that's all the time I got. I'm not going to get into it any more than that. That's what the hell. What a pleasure and honor it's been to have lived long enough to be able to deliver these messages to you today. I trust that many of you will find these things impactful in terms of your thinking, maybe even reprehensible, and might want to sort of direct negative impulses towards me. But I'll let you know that my life is, horrible if it makes you feel any better. And that, I'm full of betrayal, immense amounts of physical pain and loneliness and regrets. I'm laughing at times and seemingly having fun, but it's just a chemical thing. It's not really true. I mean, it's tough. And for 30 years I've been trying to do this, and it's it's been a slog. 120, 130 hour work weeks back in my heyday, only to be, betrayed by all the people I was trying to help and establish relationships with. And it's been tough. So, try not to feel so angry. And I do this, honestly, I do this out of love. I love so many things about life, music and comedy, and some of the people that I've collaborated with on some of my creative projects. So amazing. so giving, so resilient, and it's just a goddamn shame. I've been trying to do something about it for 30 freaking years. I've been talking the same smack, telling people to watch out for the oncoming, for the true nature of our overlords, which is, crypto fascism and all the, you know, third party outsourced propaganda ministry they're using against us, and the fifth column operatives, and the Democrats, people pretending to be Democrats in positions of power and really forming a one party state behind our backs, and actually working towards advancing the causes of the upper class. And it's a real goddamn shame. And that's, I see a country in trouble, and I'm doing everything that I can to help out and to make it, the world a better place for having been here. And that's really all there is to it. I can't tell you any more honestly how I feel about it, and I'm not getting anything out of this. I've just, sacrificed so much, tried so hard to make the world a better place. It's hard to give up, even though I'm obviously have been a total failure at it and have nothing to show for my efforts. It's just, it's a compulsion. Some people like playing online video poker. I like, shaking my fist at the dying of the light. What can I tell you? Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want you to ask one, final thing. Smash that like button. Yes, you want to. Smash the like button, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and doing what I can, you filthy animal. So let's try and get through this mess together. What do you say? All right, yeah, thanks. No, wait, no, I want to go.